Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another pitch reel video. I guess is what I'm calling these right now, but who really cares? Anyway,
Actually, I like that a lot. Pitch reel. That's a good name.
the pitch reel, right? Anyway, if that didn't already spoil it, I am joined by the one and only Rhymestyle. Rhymestyle, will you please tell hello to everyone?
Hello there, mate. I don't know what
Okay.
that was. I was trying to do a fancy accent and it just came out awful. I'm just gonna sip my coffee.
That's fine. Anyway, guys, so today we're going to talk about, so the last time I had Rhymestyle on my channel, we talked about the ending of Death Note and what we thought of that. But this time we're going to actually talk about Death Note in a completely different light. And that is with the news that Netflix has actually picked up the rights to make a live action Death Note movie from Warner Brothers, who's been kind of sitting on this and dragging their feet on this entire franchise for the last 10 freaking years. Those guys, holy shit. Anyway, they're finally going to make it. And we know one thing is when Netflix picks up a movie, they actually do it. And whether they do it right is one thing or another, but they're actually going to do it. We're going to see an American Death Note movie soon. So,
Before you continue, I will point out that I'm actually a big fan of the live action movies that Japan did. I thought they were great. Just want to toss that out there.
I think that's true, and we'll be talking about that a little bit here. But we're going to pitch, and what I'm going to do is I have a list here, right in front of me. And I'm going to start talking about this, and Dino's going to tell me what he thinks about all these different characters, their interactions, where they should be in order to kind of boil down the entirety of Death Note story. Maybe not the entirety, but the biggest points that need to be made into one 2.5 hour film. So are you ready, Rhymestyle? Are you ready for this?
I am 100% ready to go.
All right, cool. All right, so as I already said, we're only going to try to get in 2.5 hours, one particular film that needs to be done. So here's what I want to know first. Location. Is it possible that when... Don't make me laugh.
To those who can't see, I am actually on Facecam on Skype with Real right now. And I put my Light Yagami, my rare Light Yagami figure in front of the camera.
It's beautiful. I'll put up a picture on the screen right now. Don't make me laugh. I'm in the zone.
This comes with a bag of chips. You understand that? It does. Look, it comes with a bag of chips right there.
Oh my god, it does, people. Oh my god. First of all, I think the biggest thing we need if we do a Death Note movie in the States is a promotional advertisement with Lay's potato chips. I think that's important. It needs to be done. But anyway, so the first question here is location. When we do usually adapt movies from different countries, be it manga, literature, or anything else, we have a tendency to put them in the States instead of in the country where they were actually from. And that somewhat in the same light affects the casting. Now, should they be Japanese? Should they be American? Where are they really? Does that affect who they are? I want to know.
In the same light, I see what you did there.
I want to know, what do you think? Do you think that in terms of an American Death Note movie, do you think that it needs to be based in Japan, or can it be based in some place like New York or some other state like that?
So let me ask you the first question. For this movie pitch, are you saying that if they're to do it, it should be exactly like the manga, or it should be like a spin-off where it features Death Note, it features the Shinigami, and it's kind of a similar story?
I feel like if you're going to tell the story of Death Note, I don't think you can... Not that the Death Note story can't kind of break away. I mean, it's broad enough to break away from any potential spin-offs or any other series that you can think of. But I think if your main goal is to recreate and tell the story of Death Note, then there's no better story, no better cat and mouse story to tell than Light versus L.
Okay. Well, in that case, honestly, location wouldn't bug me that much because I wouldn't be able to know the difference. I mean, if there's a bunch of skyscrapers, I really wouldn't pay that much attention to anything that's around the movie, essentially. As long as it seems like they're following the same story with the same settings, the same everything, I wouldn't really know whether it's in Japan, Germany, Australia, or freaking Mars.
Mm-hmm. And
but it's because I don't pay attention to the details.
Snorting everything. I feel like in terms of actually breaking into a Death Note movie, I feel like it is really important to basically set it in Japan, just because of basically how L comes in and plays the Japanese system, especially bringing in, having close ties to and bringing in the FBI and kind of the strong arm of the American legal system coming in and kind of trying to police the world is something that's really interesting and certain. That's something you really can't play unless it is unless it's in Japan and basically L's coming in and bringing the Americans with him. If Light and everyone is in America, it has less of an impact if L comes and all the FBI starts working on it. But if they were to adapt it to some different degree, and there's like, say it's all in New York and L and Light are battling it out in New York, then the FBI and all that stuff coming in is kind of null and void. I feel like if that's the case, then L might have to just work for the FBI and the American society in general. And it's not really a worldwide thing so much as it's centered in the States, with the world looking in on the investigation. But anyway, so with that, depending on, and guys, if you have any ideas, if you want to know, if you think that this should be based in Japan or this should be based in America, then tell us in the comment section below, because to me, that's a really interesting question. Does it help drive the story, or do you not really think so? Does it not really matter? But my next question is, we're going to focus on Light and L respectively. And biggest question with Light, honestly, is where is he in his life right now? So in the manga, in the anime series, he started off as a senior in high school, or the equivalent of in Japan, where in the movie, he's more focused on being kind of a college student to that degree. Do you think he's a high school student, college student, a young adult? Are we focusing on a 20-year-old, early 20-year-old, or like a teenager at this point, do you think?
So this is going to be the challenge here. Now, obviously, in the live-action movie that were released in Japan, number one, they had 3 movies. It was 2 movies based on Death Note, and then they had a 3rd movie to kind of complete the trilogy. This is a movie you can't have everything in. Death Note is a series that spans from years of when Light is in high school all the way through college. It lasts a long time. And in Japan, as I was talking to my girlfriend, we were just talking about this off camera, before we start recording. Everybody knows what Death Note is. But in the rest of the world, when you create a movie, you want to create it from the angle and perspective of the audience has no clue. They have never seen the series. They don't know what it is. I mean, there's people who will know the series, obviously, but it's supposed to be always crafted to the point where anybody can walk into the theater, sit down, and understand from point A to point Z or what happens. Now, in this situation, it's kind of a challenge because you only want one movie, right? Mm-hmm. If there was multiple movies, so you can do a part 1, part 2. But because we're only doing one movie, I think they would have to do the exact same thing that happened in the live-action movies, where it kind of skips past the intro. Kira's already kind of present. They passed the high school years, so now they're in a college setting. And mostly because, like I said, this series is it's only 36 episodes, but in terms of how much time actually passes between when the series starts and ends, it's a lot of time. So I'd say start in college and kind of speed through the beginning and the outro to kind of explain to the audience what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So in that, just jumping off that, so you would start somewhere, and the people who haven't seen the live action movies, do yourself a favor and go watch them. I don't know where you're going to find them. Do it legally. Do it legally. We should always say that. Do it legally if you can. And go watch them. They're really intense. They're really fun. And I always thought the very beginning of the original movie, the original live action movie, starts with kind of Kira being known and recognized in Japan, and people are already on his side, and then we kind of go back and we kind of figure out exactly what's going on, and that is the one interesting thing, and one of the biggest deviations that not that there's not many, but one of the big deviations that they do from the beginning of the manga and the beginning of the live action movie. So do you think that when you come into this movie, you're kind of doing something similar that the live action movie already did, was kind of help explain who Kira is in a really snip-snap situation?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's one of the things I love. Usually when you take an anime and turn it into a live action movie, they do a horrible job. But in cases like Death Note, where it's not about fancy superpowers and key blasts and flying around, it's a lot easier to do. You can focus more on the story and then kind of figure out how to snip out the parts in between so the movie isn't 4 hours long. Mm-hmm. So what the live action movie did in Japan, they did a great job. Really good job.
Mm-hmm. And now we're going to focus on... let's focus on L, though. So we already talked about L and his kind of attachments, who he's actually working for. Now, in both series and the movies, he is actually just kind of this lone wolf, greatest detective on Earth. Do you think that this should kind of remain constant, or should he be attached to some kind of policing vehicle like the United Nations or something else?
I say he should be on his own.
Yeah?
Because L's always been on his own. Obviously, in the series, this is one of the first times where he actually teamed up with people outside of his circle. But for the sake of keeping L special and making him unique and just that guy that's like, the rival to Light, they should keep him on his own.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that would be really interesting, although I do feel like in terms of trying to tell the most comprehensive story possible, there is an issue where it comes to the point where how do you take that, whether it's in the United Nations or not, and kind of explain how L has so much attachment to something like the FBI, which we're going to get into next with Ray Pember and Misora, whatever, Ray Pember and his fiance, who play strikingly different roles in the anime and the live action movie in general. And that's kind of what I want to talk about next, is in terms of actually creating a live action movie based around American concept of blockbuster filmmaking or whatever. What do you see the importance of Ray Pember and his fiance playing in the entirety of the story? Is that a portion of the story that can be skipped over entirely, or do you think it's too important in order to set up the cat and mouse game between that of Light and L?
Honestly, again, going to just do the fact that this is going to be one movie, not multiple ones, you can cut out the Ray Pember part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the reason why they kept that in the Japanese version of the live action movie is because the story went differently. To those who have not seen a live action movie, for the most part, it is essentially the same story, but there's a point when you get to the movie where it takes a completely different path from the anime. And while most people hate it when you change the actual original story, in the live action movie, it offers an insight of what could have happened if this happened instead of this outcome, which is why I really enjoy the live action movies. But now in this situation, in our movie, honestly, if you're going to skip to the exact same story that we saw in the anime and the manga, we can honestly skip over the Pember part and just get to the good stuff, where it's just basically Light versus L the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, going off of that, if we're skipping over Ray Pember, I do want to kind of mention to everyone who hasn't seen the live action movies, while she doesn't necessarily appear in the anime and the manga, if my memory serves, I could be completely wrong. There is a character named Shiori, who plays kind of Light's girlfriend decoy role while he's trying to fight Ray Pember. And if you haven't seen the live action movie, like we already said, the way they play out the Ray Pember and his fiance part in the original movie, the original 3 live action movies, is far superior in my opinion and vastly different from that of the anime and the manga. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It's really interesting. The next person, or the next necessarily 2 people that we're talking about that play a very pivotal role in the entirety of the series is Misa and Rem. In terms of this, like, do you think these people are necessarily important if we're still, like I said, we're focusing on just the Light and L cat and mouse game? Are these 2 people essential? If they are, how do you introduce them? Because I know that this creates somewhat of a little road bump in the entirety of the series.
100%. You can't cut out Misa because she's essentially the second Kita. Mm-hmm. And they should honestly introduce her the exact same way. I mean, if you take the Death Note story, you can easily cut out the Ray Pember part and go straight to the second Kita. Mm-hmm. It can be really easily done.
If we take what we thought about earlier in terms of introducing Ryuk and Light and that of Kira and everything, and if we were able to skip that over, somewhat of what they kind of do in the live action movies of the Japanese version is by skipping that and kind of focusing a little bit away from it, you're able to kind of explain a lot of what you're seeing later on through Misa and Rim. And if you were to introduce them somewhere down the middle of the line, somewhere, say the 30-minute, or not the 30-minute, like they would probably most likely be at the midpoint. So about 60 minutes into your 2-hour movie, if not 75. But that's to be decided later, honestly. So yeah, I feel like I agree. You need to keep Misa, you need to keep Rem. I think that those 2 characters are incredibly important. And moving off of those, another big difference from the movie and the anime, obviously in the anime we have Higuchi, who is the CEO of the company, I can't necessarily remember the name, who inherits the Death Note from Light and Misa during their time in incarceration. Now, it is actually an interesting question. Should Light and Misa still be incarcerated, or does that take up too much time? Is that something that's incredibly important in order to tell the story in order to kind of set up the pieces for Misa to basically get away like she does in the very end of the series.
So this is the interesting part. For that a scene, you can do one or two things. Number one, you can completely write over it. Because again, this is a 2-hour movie. You can't fit everything in. Or two, you can write it and cut it to the point where it happens a lot faster. Like you can get that scene out in, let's say, a 20-minute mark. Or not 20-minute mark, but in 20 minutes. And then from there, just kind of write out like time skips and stuff like that. But that could also be kind of iffy. So honestly, I would go with option one and just completely write it out and do something differently. But then the problem is how do you... I don't know. This is a tough question. Like, I wonder what the people will say for this one.
I'm really interested. Guys, like literally as we go through this, if you feel like any of the points that we're hitting are wrong, just go down in the comment section below and tell us exactly why you think those are wrong points and what you would do differently. I'd really like to see how you think a Death Note movie would actually play out, because we try to be creative. We know these series to one degree or the other, but we are not the people who go out and actually make this movie. We have creative thoughts, but we don't necessarily know what would work or not. So personally, in my opinion, I feel like you could keep the part where Misa gets captured and considered the second Kieda, because if that's the game that we're playing, if we need to introduce Misa because she is the second Kieda, well, a big portion of her character was actually being caught as the second Kieda and being at the like having the Shinigami eyes and not being able to identify who L is and give Light his name. So I would definitely keep the point where he saves, because it to me, even in the story, even in the movies themselves, they wrap it up so nicely where Misa loses her memory and Rim is completely written off the board because she uses it to save Light. And honestly, guys, like I keep saying, go see the live action movies. I don't know if we can even pitch something better than the ending of the second movie at this point, but we're trying. I think in terms of keeping the Higuchi storyline, obviously you write that over. The whole point of him giving up the Death Note and continuing the murders is important, but you need to make it less complicated, because you need a way for him to move forward, not incriminate Misa, get her memory gone, and basically leave Light as the last person on the chessboard against L, so you can finish up that cat and mouse game. So the last couple people are definitely just kind of wild cards and something I feel like we're just not going to have time to put in at all. This is my opinion. I don't necessarily remember their names, but the con artist and the burglar that L brings in to help in the investigation, personally, like even going back and watching, I don't necessarily see the benefit of these people what they ever had in the entire series. They basically came and went without much problem after L died. So I'm not necessarily sure. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you can actually write them out, because I actually forgot they were even the story. No, it's funny you said, because when I was rewatching Death Note last week, because I rewatch the show like once a month because it's just that good. And I remember that popped up, and I was like, "Who the hell are those? Those guys?" Like, I actually forget that they're in the story. So yeah, we can keep them out. As long as you have the initial squad, the police force, L, Light, Misa, and then the Shinigamis, I think you're chilling.
I agree. It's in terms of actually breaking the story down, character, plot point, and everything wise in order to tell a coherent story. And just going off this, the last couple pairs that we need to talk about in terms of people that are essential to the story. And I'm not necessarily these guys are essential to the story for going forward in this one particular story, but Nier and Mello. What are your thoughts on them in terms of telling one coherent story, or maybe even setting it up for something else?
I would follow, and this is kind of a spoiler, but I would honestly follow the live action movie and just make it a Light versus L thing, and not even bring Nier and Mello in, because at that point you're just going to extend the movie. It's going to have a rushed ending, so I would just keep it strictly between Light versus L. Which, like, again, that's the big, beautiful part about the live-action movies that came out, because it gives you the other perspective of what if there is no Nier and Mello in that situation, and it becomes a Light versus L thing the entire time.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree, and like we keep saying, go see the live-action movie, guys. It's much better. If you had any problems with the way that the original series played out to one degree or another, it fixes those problems. And this is one of the best things about an adaptation, and kind of why I'm doing this entire series is by taking an idea that's basically already concreted or has a set rule, be it in a franchise or some kind of adaptation or anything, you're able to take a story concept and basically mold it into something that you actually feel works and works better based off of twists and stuff that the creators themselves might have not known when they started, but having that foresight allows you to create something a lot more meaningful. So I definitely think like those are the only two people, those are the only people and only situations that I actually want to talk to you about Rhymestyle. The last thing, and I know you said you'd leave this to me, but like I've already said in one of my videos, is if there was one perfect person that Netflix could get to make this series, and they've worked with him before, if somehow they can attract David Fincher to write and like basically be a part of and direct the Death Note movie, I would squeal like a little girl. Because
just to give people an example of what this guy did, do you want to toss out a couple of movie names?
yes, if you don't know who David Fincher is and you don't know exactly how he would work perfectly for Death Note, if you've seen movies like Seven or Gone Girl, The Social Network, Fight Club, Benjamin Button, The Zodiac, Alien 3, because everyone loves Alien 3. But no, just like honestly, this guy, or even directing the first 2 episodes of House of Cards, this guy is one of the best directors living today, and I feel like he gravitates towards this type of genre, this kind of dark, mellow, like this dark kind of criminal thriller where how do you catch the criminal and all that stuff. He would be perfect for this series. I feel like he would set the right tone in terms of stylistically and also artistically. So that's who I would definitely want. I have no idea, and I want everyone to tell me who they think would actually be perfect for starring in this film, because I actually have no earthly idea.
I'm with you on that one.
I mean, I feel like as long as it doesn't matter location, it'll probably be a white guy and someone we probably have never heard of before. But regardless, if you have an idea,
Honestly, and I said this off camera too, but I don't care who they cast. If the movie is good, that's all I care about. You could have literally the worst actors in existence, but if the movie somehow comes good and works great and execution's awesome, I'm gonna enjoy it.
I completely agree. I absolutely completely agree. And Rhymestyle, thank you for joining me on this video today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Hopefully we can get together and do some more stuff in the future. Anyway, everybody go check out Rhymestyle if you haven't already. This guy just recently broke 300,000. That's pretty badass. Did you make, like, honestly, did you make your goal? Did you get it like 300,000 in the right time limit, or was just a little under, a little over?
I don't usually set goals. My only goal I've ever had was 100K. And now I'm aiming for 500 and a million. I know people always like to have these goals where they do between like, oh, I want every 5,000. I don't want to think like that. I just want to have fun and enjoy YouTube. And then like when I reach the big goals over time, that's when I celebrate. In my situation now, I'm going to break 500K by the end of the year. And that's kind of what I'm going for at this moment.
This guy. If you have not supported him yet, and for whatever reason you watch my channel without supporting him, go over to his channel. Give him a sub, because he will make amazing content, and unlike a whole lot of other YouTubers on this community, he will upload daily and he will satisfy your need every day for grade A anime content. Anyway, guys, have a nice day. Rhymestyle, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Everyone, have a good day.
Peace.